Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder live show on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. This is Locked On Thunder on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the world. This is our live stream with Derek Parker every Monday and Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Time, live on YouTube, on your podcast feed afterward, in addition to our 5-day-week daily show and after every single game, and our squad show live with Jeremy Lamb, Tyler Jones, myself on Tuesday, Thursdays at 3:30 p.m. Central Time on YouTube, and uploaded to your podcast platform of your choice after the fact. Derek joining us, of course, as always, from Thunder on SI as well. OKC Dream Team on Patreon. We can find both of us, and his YouTube channel, Derek-Parker, where he breaks down the entire NBA draft. On today's show, we're diving into OKC's 3-game winning streak, how that could help them build some momentum, previewing a big week, including a matchup with San Antonio, and taking a trip around the NBA and handing out some technical fouls. Derek, how you doing today? You're still muted, Derek. This is not good.
Shoot, Rylan. Off to a bad start. Only up from here. I'm doing good.
I'm glad it's only up from here. We had the snafu out of the way. But, Derek, Thunder riding a 3-game winning streak, and there's some pretty big takeaways, and this could possibly get them some momentum. Derek, what's your first takeaway from this 3-game winning streak for OKC?
Yeah, first takeaway, and it's not some novel idea, but I think it is important that the Thunder got 3 pretty gritty wins in 3 different ways. I think earlier in the season, they were just coasting off, obviously, the elite defense. Their offense was good enough to where they were just churning out 20-point wins. And of course, the Thunder prefer that. The Thunder fan base prefers that. The rest of the NBA doesn't. But I think it is important that they showed some different things in this kind of malaise, as has been the word of the week. They needed to grind out an overtime win via shot making, go score 129 points versus the Jazz. Obviously, they were undermanned versus Memphis. They had to rely on guys like AJ, Kenrich Williams. They reached deep into the bag and kind of use some more role player performances to go get that win. And then against the Miami Heat, they needed to really step on the gas, assert their will on the defensive end, stop playing behind the ball, as Mark Daignault and Jaylin Williams said. So I just think it's important. They obviously went and got the wins. That's what everyone wants. But the ways that they did it, I thought, really spoke to the nature of this team and the fact that they're trying to get back to what they were a few weeks ago.
Yeah, finding ways to win. That's why I think that this week has brought them some momentum. It could be a turning point. And, from JDub's mentality, trying to figure out how to be beneficial offensively coming off of this wrist surgery, to what he said last night about the team, talking with Chet Holmgren and realizing that they, were a little bit too reliant on trying to get steals and not just trying to get stops. And there's a difference in that, and how, you don't want to gamble too much for steals. You want to just play defense and have the results fall where they do. And I think that they did that against Miami, and it got them the stops that they needed to eventually go on one of those avalanche-like runs to get control of the game in the second half and to have them win this game. So I think that they can get back to basics, so to say, this week after what you've seen them do in this 3-game winning streak. And of course, that'll be put to the test in a big way, starting tomorrow against San Antonio, playing Houston on Thursday, and the rest of the big week ahead. But I think that this can get them some momentum, Derek.
Yeah, 100%. And second takeaway, and certainly a part of that momentum, is Chet Holmgren. And Chet Holmgren, talk about momentum, ever since the Spurs losses, which obviously there was a lot of stuff floating around about Chet Holmgren in the matchups versus Victor Wembanyama. He has been the picture of consistency since then, looking like a potential Defensive Player of the Year winner. And consistency has not been a thing that he's necessarily had in his time in the NBA. Obviously, with the injuries, that's going to hurt consistency on its own. But even when he's on the court, there's times where he's really up and down. He looks like a superstar scorer. He can look a little bit lackadaisical and a little bit simply inconsistent on that end. On defense, even, where he really shines, I think there's times where he can look like the Defensive Player of the Year. And there's also times where, he's not blocking as many shots. He's just not as physical as he should be. In this stretch where they've now won 3 games in a row, and obviously you can include the Hornets and the Suns in here as well, but he has been a shot blocking menace. He has been really, really consistent on the offensive end. He hasn't missed too many shots. He's just been quite simply an all-star, I think. He has looked like the second best player on the Thunder far and away. It's exactly what they've needed in this stretch where they don't have necessarily everyone firing on all cylinders. So Chet Holmgren's been phenomenal. You can look at the block totals. 3 versus the Heat, 3 versus the Jazz, 4 versus the Warriors, 6 versus the Trailblazers, 4 versus the Sixers. He's been an animal, just erasing shots on that end. So they've needed every bit of it, and they're certainly going to need that for the week ahead as well.
Yeah, they are going to need that going forward. And I think that Chet Holmgren, of course, the last time out against the Spurs did not look good, did not have any consistency. And you look at it, and that's why we pointed out the back issues. That's why we pointed out the sickness of, like, he just simply wasn't even physically moving the way he's moving right now, much less to the production level that he has right now. And of course, this will all be highlighted tomorrow. Whether he has a great game, it'll say, okay, he has turned that corner and he is healthy and he is better. If he has a bad game, then we'll be like, okay, well, the Spurs are definitely a problem for Chet Holmgren. So a lot is going to ride on tomorrow for Chet. But I also thought that a big takeaway was just simply getting J. Will back. Like, his level of intensity and effort that he gives on any given play really is infectious to the rest of these guys, and like, they need to be whole. They were as close to as whole as they've been all season. Last night, still missing Isaiah Hartenstein, which is a massive piece to miss, but that's the only rotational player that was out last night. And J. Will comes in, and I think that you're seeing that the defensive improvement has been real for him. And jumping entry passes, chesting up at the rim to make life difficult in the paint, and to help the Thunder control the paint as they typically do outside of this last stretch where Brandon Carlson had to play. He's been a much better pick and roll defender as well, just understanding his assignments on that end of the court, more physical. And I think that there is a level of confidence that you need to play with defensively that he is showing over the course of this season so far, where he is able to mix it up at the glass, and he's able to move guys out of the way, even if he's not the one collecting the rebound. He's just a body that moves other bodies, and it allows those long rebounds to carry him out to Oklahoma City, and they get the long board and they go the other way. So J. Will made a really big impact, not to mention his offensive impact, taking 2 threes very confidently, makes that second one, getting to the rim off of these hard closeouts, getting to the free throw line as well. 3 trips last night for J. Will in his bench minutes. He checked all the boxes in his return.
Yeah, I think J. Will was certainly missed. He's a player, it can get bogged down a little bit, the late end of this rotation, just given the fact that there's some really, really talented players in the middle. AJ Mitchell's been a huge standout. Cason Wallace, like, these are guys in the middle of the roster due to how good the top is. But J. Will's a legitimate NBA player. He genuinely helps any rotation with all of the things you touched on. Great ball mover, knows the Thunder system front to back. And I think he made his impact yesterday, as we all saw. Speaking of Jaylin Williams, we're going to move over to JDub, my third and final takeaway. I think he seems to be getting better. Obviously, the shot, there's so much talk about the wrist. The shooting is still not there. He was 0 for 1 yesterday. Outside of the shooting, I think the wrist is certainly affecting other areas of basketball in general. It's a wrist injury. Like, he's got to dribble, he's got to pass. And I asked him about it yesterday after the game. He said he's getting close. This is paraphrasing, but getting really, really close to being capable at all the other stuff, to being back to normal in terms of handling, passing, the grip strength, things like that. So I think the eye test is backing that up. He had some monster games over the last week in terms of getting downhill, playing defense, moving the ball. He's just been really, really stellar at everything besides shooting. And obviously, shooting is the biggest key to this. Like, the Thunder are not going to be what they were last year if he's not hitting triples. But I do think it is a great thing that he is returning to form in all the other areas, because as soon as the shooting does come around, he's going to be the player that he was.
Yeah, I think that he will be. I think that you're going to see him find ways to almost reinvent himself through the midst of this season, even if that shooting doesn't come around. And the good news is he has a few months here to see if that shooting can come around. But that is a concern of perhaps that it won't this season because of the injury that he's dealing with. And I think that you have to look at JDub, and at least give him credit for trying to change that mentality as he has over the last few games. You've got to see that gain in consistency and continue to get better. My last takeaway is that Lou Dort, Derek, is turning me into an old. And I'm usually not like a person that's like, oh, your threes aren't falling, so you got to get to the cup, get to the basket. It's a lot harder to get to the basket whenever guys are not guarding you. But with Lou Dort, I mean, this is a guy who they're not even respecting on the court a lot of the times. A lot of the times the defense is not even in the same area code as him from the outside. at some point you do have to try to bend the defense in a certain way. And Lou Dort right now is not bending the defense in any way because his 3-point shot is not falling and because you'll live with his 3-point shot and likely miss at this rate in the season. Could he put the ball on the deck, get downhill, get to the rim, and trust in his playmaking decision, which has really gotten better as a playmaker in the last 3 years? But his rim finishing is the biggest thing. His rim finishing right now, he's shooting 76% at the cup. That's a 19 percentage point jump from where his previous career high was at 57%. Look, this is the problem, though, with Lou, is that, like, for as much as you want to say this, he also can have the sequence he had last night where he gets the ball in the corner and then the ball sticks to him and he tries to, middle of the shot clock. It's not like it was desperation time, create a shot for himself against Davion Mitchell. It's like, buddy, you're not a good shot creator. Davion Mitchell's a great defender. And if Davion Mitchell is on you, that's got to send the signals to your brain of like, okay, well, that means he's not on Shai. I need to get this ball out of my hands and get this ball to a better score if one of their best defenders somehow got stuck on Lou Dort. So it is, a interesting dilemma because it's like, well, he has gotten better as a playmaker, but he's not perfect when going to the rim. He has gotten better as a rim finisher, shooting 76%. But do you trust him in the other areas to put the ball on the deck? Because at some point you're going to have to make that decision to pass out. It is a hard dilemma here for the Thunder and for Lou Dort, because at the end of the day, this team is better when Lou Dort is playing better, and you want to continue because you have the benefit of time. You're not even at the All-Star break yet. You want to continue to try to get him into a rhythm, to try to get him to the point that he needs to be to impact this team. But you also got to prioritize the team. And I think the Thunder have walked that line pretty well, Derek. I mean, he played 19 minutes last night. 6 other players played 19 or more minutes last night. Mm-hmm. He was a non-starting minute level player on Sunday. He was a non-starting minute level player against Utah in that overtime game. He only played 20 minutes in an overtime game. Like, they're trying to walk that line, but Lou just has to try something to get going.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no sugarcoating this. I know we're getting cupcakes and flowers comments over here, but he's made 3 threes in the last 4 games. That's pretty inexcusable for a guy that's going to be relied on to, shoot threes and make threes. I think the rebuttal to the driving thing is he's just not that great a driver. And especially if they're not respecting the shot, as you're saying, then they're probably anticipating the drive because they know that he's a little wary about high volume 3-point shooting right now. So, I mean, you do have to continue letting him work through it to some degree. But to your point, I think the Thunder have done a great job of, recognizing when it's not his night and playing him 19 minutes, 20 minutes, 23 minutes, back-to-back games. At this point, you do have to look to other options to hit the threes. And that especially showed up versus the Heat yesterday. Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe were phenomenal, and they were hitting their threes, and they eventually loosened up, and you could see everything else kind of fall into place for the Thunder. So yeah, I think there's a fine line, but I do think the Thunder are moving through this process pretty well right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can get going and if he can get a rhythm from 3, and if he can get a rhythm defensively as well, because I think that there have been times this season where he has let the defensive end slip a little bit because the offensive end was slipping. I think that he's gotten better over the last couple of games of not letting that happen, but you've got to see him turn the corner in that way as well, because if he at all lets his offensive struggles bleed into the defensive end, well, then he's quite literally like unplayable. I mean, it just is what it is with Lou Dort. So let's see what the Thunder do moving forward. I don't think that the starting lineup, though, is a big deal. Mark's never treated it like a big deal, Derek, and it would not be consistent of me to act like it is, because I told you during the finals, whenever Mark did change that starting lineup, that the starting lineup is not their problem. They got out to a double-digit lead and they blew it in the finals. It had nothing to do with their starting lineup in that game. These games that they've lost have not been due to the starting lineup. It's been due to some bad play overall. And Mark is making those adjustments to get him off the court as need be. But Derek, we have a full week to review and a full week to preview. And let's see what we got right and wrong over this past week, Derek. You predicted Shai would play in 2 fourth quarters. He did. He played in the Jazz fourth quarter and the Heat fourth quarter, but it was an awkward way to get there.
Yeah, I don't think I would have picked those two games, but we take a win where we can get it, especially in a week where we were probably a little bit more wrong than right.
And I did say that the Charlotte game would be the most boring game. I didn't think it'd be boring in that direction, but it was boring. It was flat out boring.
I'll give it to you. I'm not happy about it though.
I mean, it is. I mean, the Charlotte Hornets walked into the Baycom Center, made a ham and cheese sandwich through the wrappers on the floor. They did. I mean, it was over before the game even started against Charlotte, with the Hornets taking it to OKC. So it became a boring game pretty quickly. I also did say that my nerdy watch was the old Utah offense, and their offense got clicking and puts this game into overtime. I guess you could count that as half a point. Half a point for Con Knipple being the most interesting opposing player, because Con had a huge night as well. For Charlotte, I don't know. That's a whole point there if you take the two halves.
I'll give it to you.
Now, I'm going to give you at least half a point, if not a full point, for calling Ja Morant the most interesting opposing player, because he didn't play, but right before the game on Friday, there was trade news that dropped that Memphis is looking to trade Ja Morant. So, I mean, that was an interesting storyline on Friday, the day of the game, and you did predict that Ja Morant would be the storyline.
Man, we are giving y'all the runaround right now with our wins of the week, because I'm looking at these where we were wrong. Yeah, the spin zone is on full cycle right now.
And I'm going to give myself credit for saying that the storyline at the end of the week would be Chet Holmgren's All-Star candidacy. Zach Lowe, JDub, all talking Chet All-Star. Why not? Why not give the win? Because we were wrong on Derek calling Utah the most boring game. It went to overtime. It was a thriller, Derek.
Yeah, it was not the most boring game. One of the more exciting Thunder games of the season, I would say. So hats off to the Jazz.
Yeah, credit to old David Locke and them. We both called Miami the best game of the week, and I don't think we can say that whenever they had an overtime game.
Yep, agree.
We both were wrong predicting 4-0. To our credit, we didn't feel good about predicting 4-0, but we still did anyway, and we were still wrong.
Yeah, we both wanted to lean 3-1, and we didn't, and that's on us, and we'll be better moving forward, but we take the L this week.
And then I did say Shai would only play in one fourth quarter. He obviously played in two, but he did not have to play yesterday in the fourth quarter against Miami. I think that that's proof that Mark listens to this show, because I think that he really wanted to just get you a win, because there was really no need to put Shai back in there last night.
Well, my overall record streak is crumbling before my eyes. I needed a win.
You started a new streak. It's a bad one.
Yeah, exactly. We are streaking in all the wrong ways right now, and I'll take the wins where I can get them again.
Yeah, I mean, there it is. Now, let's talk about the week ahead, Derek, which I think is a massive week ahead for OKC, where they're going to take on some big competition. Let's do that coming up. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day, previewing the week for OKC. I'm Rylan Stiles. That's Derek Parker. Derek, the Thunder play San Antonio, Houston, Miami, and Cleveland this week. We threw a Cleveland in there because obviously it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so we won't be here because the Thunder played during our normal time slot. Shout out to Adam Silver for making that happen. And so let's preview that game as well, since we won't be able to preview it on the front end. Derek, what's the best game this week? It might be the easiest one to pick.
It's got to be the San Antonio Spurs. It is the fourth matchup of the season. The Thunder have yet to beat them. It is going to be the talk of the NBA town, regardless of what these teams want. It just is. It's the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the West right now. It previously seemed like San Antonio could maybe be making a push for it. They're absolutely not, with some rougher losses over the last week. And still, there's going to be so many storylines hovering around Thunder Spurs. It's got to be Thunder Spurs.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, the possibility of the Thunder going 0-4 against San Antonio, the possibility of the Thunder getting a statement win and kind of returning to form, all of it's there. It's Chet Wemby, all of it's there. It's got to be the Spurs. Now, we did disagree on the most boring game of the week. I think that the latter two are the two to pick from, and I picked Miami and you picked Cleveland. Why did you pick Cleveland?
I didn't pick Cleveland because I think it's actually going to be a boring game. I think this is a loaded week, one of the more loaded weeks on the Thunder schedule in its entirety, but I just had a blast with the first iteration of Thunder Heat. So I don't expect the second one to necessarily be boring either. I think it's fun play style. So not detracting from the Cleveland Cavaliers, but I just thought the Heat were a fun watch yesterday, so I'm imagining they'll be a fun watch next week as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it'll be a fun game to watch, and I agree that like it's hard to pick a boring week out of the slate. I leaned with Cleveland because they've lost in very interesting ways. Like their record is not good, but like they've blown leads, they've gotten blown out to start games, then fought back and still lost. And I just think that game, it's either going to be the cherry on top of a pretty good week for OKC, or it's going to be a statement win for Cleveland. And there's so much to look at from that game that I can't call it boring. So the Heat, we just saw the Thunder play, last night, and it'll be 6 days until the next game. It did not get the juices flowing as much as Cleveland did for me. But the best storyline in the game, probably the one that we all expect. For me, it's Chet versus Wemby. I mean, like it or not, it's just always going to be a thing, especially after Chet looked non-existent in 3 games against Wemby. To start this season, he's played a lot better recently. There is no excuse for Chet if he doesn't play well tomorrow, and he's got to play good against Wemby. I mean, win, lose, or draw, he's got to play good. Chet Holmgren does. And Wemby is, of course, Wemby, and he is able to take away so much from OKC. Seeing OKC try to game plan for him tomorrow will be a lot of fun. And then it comes down to like, you could be 0-4 against the Spurs after tomorrow. Not that a win will wipe away the 0-3 start, and not that it will really change any opinion of what that series would look like if they were to match up that way. But it is just going to be a massive storyline.
Yeah, it has to be that. Like, it is far and away the biggest storyline, not just for the Thunder, but one of the biggest storylines in the NBA right now. It really is a testament to how good these guys are. That Wembanyama, future superstar, Chet, obviously one of the bigger American names in the entire league right now, up and coming. So it is just going to be Wemby versus Chet. I agree that is the biggest storyline, but I also wanted to give the caveat that this is still number 1 versus number 2 in the West. Kind of zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, these two teams could very well be matched up in the postseason, and I'm not saying that any of the regular season matchups thus far are going to be, directly translated over to the postseason. If the Thunder go and lose tomorrow and they're 0-4 versus the Spurs this year, I don't think that bodes necessarily good or bad for the postseason in any way, but this is still a potential preview of some really, really, really good teams in the West. I'm more excited from that standpoint than I am to watch just Chet and just Wemby go to work, because there's so many other factors in this game in terms of the MVP. How is San Antonio going to limit him when he's probably going to have it going a little more than he did in the other 3 games? How are the Thunder, with their plethora of point of attack defenders, going to handle Steph Castle, Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox? It's just, there's a lot of moving parts here, and I just want to zoom out a little bit outside of just Wemby versus Chet, because this game is going to have all the fireworks.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big game, especially like you mentioned, for the 1 and 2 seed in the West, because the Spurs already have clinched the tiebreaker over OKC. So if it ends in a tie on the record-wise, the Spurs will be the 1 seed over OKC. We've seen the Thunder benefit from tiebreakers. That 3-way tie at 57 wins with Denver and Minnesota, they got the tiebreaker, and they went to the 1 seed 2 years ago. They were the 1 seed last year. Now this year, they're trying to be the 1 seed again. And for San Antonio, you get the win. You already have the tiebreaker, but you get to put a loss on OKC and a win in your column. And for the Thunder, of course, the exact opposite. So it's a big win when it comes to the standings talk, because while both teams have dropped some games that they shouldn't have dropped over the last few weeks, like the Thunder losing to Charlotte, like the Spurs losing to Utah. Like it's been games that they shouldn't have lost. You can quickly make up for that, though, by beating one another. And again, it's already huge that the Spurs have that tiebreaker over OKC and have thoroughly outplayed OKC in these first 3 games. What's your nerdy basketball watch of the week, Derek?
In tandem with my boring game, I still think the Heat is going to be a solid one, and I'm leaning there again with nerdy basketball watch. Mark Daigneault and Spo are 2 of the best coaches in the NBA. I love that we're getting these Heat Thunder matchups so close, because we will get to see in real time the adjustments that these 2 coaches are making. Obviously, Mark Daigneault and co got the better in round 1. I'm excited to see how Spo handles round 2. Are they going to throw the same thing at the wall? Are they going to roll out different schemes offensively, defensively? That truly amplifies like this segment to me, nerdy basketball watch. Like, that's as nerdy as it gets, looking out for the coaching adjustments in 2 matchups. So that's what I'm going with.
I like that one. I'm looking at Reed Shepherd of just like, Can he stay on the floor? I think it's unfair to judge him based upon just that opening night game, but he's had in my opinion, Derek, he's had an up and down season where he's put together some really good weeks. He's put together a few bad games in that stretch as well, dating back to opening night. Like, can he stay on the floor against this Thunder defense? And can the Thunder get back to their standard that they have not reached over the last 3 weeks? Can they force him off the floor? Because if they can't force Reed Sheppard off the floor, it does change the dynamic of that Houston game. You look at how nip and tuck the first game was on opening night and how you made Reed Sheppard a non-factor. If you add Reed Sheppard into that opening night mix because he can stay on the floor, then it does change that whole trajectory.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question regarding the Rockets right now, and we'll get into them a little bit more later, but can Reed Sheppard be an impact player? He's shorter. He's had some up and down consistency stuff. Wasn't an impact player in year one. It looks like he's turning out to be that in year two, but the Thunder are going to test his mettle more than any team in the league, given their defense. And I think we'll probably learn a lot about Reed Sheppard in this matchup because, again, he was not stellar in that first game, the very first game of the season, the double overtime win for OKC. So I, too, am really excited to see how Reed Sheppard fares because he's obviously taken strides, but you also have to put those into action against teams like OKC or else, it's kind of empty calories at some point.
Yeah, the most interesting opposing player, we both have Wemby. I can give you a second one after we talk about Wemby, but like Wemby, just simply how they're going to cover him. Like you look at the last 3 games against the Spurs, they've been so focused on stopping Wemby. They've been throwing doubles at him that it does open up driving lanes for the Spurs guards to dominate, and it just has really been a bad matchup. Even whenever Wemby doesn't have massive box scores, his gravity has led to the Spurs dominating offensively because of how much attention that he is seeking. Do they finally put Chet on Wemby and just kind of live with the results there? Do they still give him that level of attention from like 2-3 bodies at a time and have to scramble out of it whenever he doesn't have the ball? Like, what are they going to do against Wemby on the defensive end? And then offensively, how do they attack him? You saw Anthony Edwards attack him to win the game last night for Minnesota, and that was the second night of a back-to-back, etc. But, you saw him get Wemby into a switch and go right to the rim. Like, how does their offense flow? Because their offense was dreadful against San Antonio. Part of that was the 3-point shooting variance, but this is a team that just can't simply have their game plan be, let's rely on the 3-point shooters to shoot well, because they've proven that does not happen consistently enough. So they've got to find ways to still play to their identity and still get to the paint against Wemby, which is a very hard challenge, but they've got to figure it out.
Yeah, before we get into Victor Wembanyama, we've got Charlotte Hornets positivity in the chat here, which if I die, I would die a happy man. My goal is accomplished. We've got Hornets positivity on Locked On Thunder. Wembanyama, obviously, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. He is such a galvanizing, like, transcendent player. I don't even think he's like 100% of what he's going to be at his peak, and he's still just so, like, he towers as just a presence on the court, not only at 7'4", but just like you can feel what he's doing at every single moment in time when he's on the court. And I think the Thunder have maybe even leaned into that a little too much lately. We've seen them kind of pick out stars and say, hey, we're going to stop the stars at the risk of letting everyone else thrive. I don't know if you can do that with this Spurs team, given just how talented the secondary guys are and how badly they want to win and how good their shooters are. Like, we talk about this Spurs team like they're still up and coming. Guys like Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, these guys have been around the block. Like, these are really good players, and these are their, 5th, 6th, 7th scoring options. So there's just a lot of factors to this Spurs Thunder matchup, and Wembanyama being the number one thing, but it'll be so interesting to see how they play him, like you said, on offense and defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, the game plan to stop Luka at all costs and Kyrie at all costs. Yes, when you're funneling shots to PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr., they beat you. You tip your cap. And you saw that same strategy work for the Celtics to win a championship over that same Mavericks team. They used the exact same defensive game plan, and it worked out to their favor because of the shooting variance. But whenever you look at the Thunder and the Spurs matchup, the Spurs aren't giving the ball off of Wemby to PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr. level players. They're giving them to really competent, really awesome players like De'Aaron Fox, like Castle, like Harper. And, Harper, of course, has had some bad luck over the last 2 weeks. He's not been playing well since that Thunder game, but he certainly has proven he can play well against the Thunder. You've had, I think, Devin Vassell dealing with a little bit of an injury as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that stuff. But yeah, you can't simply use that same copy and paste game plan, I don't think, because of how good the Spurs are.
Moving on, Ryland, record prediction.
Oh.
This is the big one. This is the big boy. How are you feeling? Give me the record prediction for the week ahead.
So it's similar to last week, how it's like, well, I guess I'll go 4-0, but I feel like 3-1. I'm at 3-1, but I'm much closer to 2-2 than I am 4-0, like much closer. And we're having to do this at the worst possible time, to where we don't have the injury report yet for tomorrow's game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if Isaiah Hartenstein is still out this week, it's going to be like a 2-2 week. But if Isaiah Hartenstein plays, it could be a 3-1 week. So it's like, it's somewhere in between that vein. I'm going to go 3-1 and see where the chips fall, but they very well could go 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it all episode. They're on a 3-game win streak. They won all those games in kind of gritty different ways. They're still not out of this quote unquote funk. Like, they're still not shooting the ball particularly well. That got going in the third quarter of yesterday's game. They're still not playing defense at the level they were. So I have 3-1, and quite honestly, I think that would be a massive, massive win this week. I too leaned closer to 2-2. I don't know that iHeart is the deciding factor for me. I just think these basketball teams are really good. Like, wouldn't shock me if the Spurs went and won. Wouldn't shock me if the Cavaliers had a huge, huge night, or if the Heat did bounce back. I think 3-1 would be a major, major win out of this week for the Thunder. And that is what I'm predicting. I do think we see bounce backs in some areas. There's no way they shoot 23% from three for all 4 of these games. I think they get at least 2 off shooting variance alone. And then I think they grab a third by kind of grinding it out a la this last week.
Now, how many fourth quarters does Shai play in?
I have 4. I think these are good teams, man. I think San Antonio is a given. I think Miami has the potential to play even better. Shai already played against Miami. You touched on it. He didn't necessarily need to, but I would expect a better product next time against Miami. Cleveland, too, I think can force it. And then the only other one is Houston. They're really down right now, but I mean, the way Ime Udoka is talking, again, we'll get into it, but I think Houston's got more in the gas tank than they've shown. So I think he plays in all 4, which I don't know has happened for a week straight for Shai yet.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think it's happened yet this season, but I'm going to go with 3. I think that one game in here gets away from either team one way or the other. Either he doesn't play in one fourth quarter because the Thunder are losing big, or they're winning big. But it's only one game that happens that way, to where Shai, there's just no need to play him in the fourth quarter. I'm going to go with 3, but 4 probably feels right. The storyline for the end of the week prediction of what everyone else will be talking about with this Thunder team, I have the 3-week stretch will be brought up either in a, hey, the Thunder just had a really good week, and did we perhaps overreact? Or it's like, dude, the Thunder lost to the Spurs. They lost to the Rockets. They almost lost to insert one of Heat or Cleveland, and they have some problems. I think we'll go one of those 2 ways.
I'm going to make you pick. Which way do you lean? You only get splinters sitting on the fence, Ryland.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I think that they're going to lose to the Spurs again tomorrow, probably. So I will say that that'll be a massive talking point. Like the Spurs, who just lost to the Timberwolves off a back-to-back and are playing, that back-to-back set, 3rd game in 4 nights on Tuesday. They're a little bit banged up, and they still beat Oklahoma City in the Paycom Center. They have a Spurs problem, gets heightened. They have problems, gets heightened. They still aren't shooting the ball well, even in their wins this week. And they're going to be talking about OKC in that way.
I'll lean a little more positively. I don't think that they're going to find their previous rhythm. Like, I don't think they're going to go out and win every game by 25 points and show the elite defense that we've seen and just magically shoot the 3-ball way, way better. But I do think they're going to go grab some big wins. And I think by the end of the week, people will be talking about this team as a team that's trending up, which is all that you want to be as a Thunder fan right now, is trending up again. Because for a little bit, I would say for a week, they were trending down. Obviously the Hornets and these Jazz games, like, this is not the Thunder team that you want to be seeing at this point in the season. So I think after a potential Spurs win, after a few other wins against good teams, I think we'll be talking about this team in better light, albeit not maybe the historic conversation that was happening earlier, which probably shouldn't have been, but I do think we'll be talking about this Thunder team much more normally by next week.
We'll have plenty of more content out there for you about the Spurs game. We'll have a preview of it Monday morning. We'll have the squad show, or that'll be a heavy topic in the squad show tomorrow as well. And of course, we just did a lot on it there. Let's go to some NBA news before we get out of here, Derek. First of all, are your Rockets cooked a little bit? The worst three-point shooting percentage in NBA history over a 5-game span. They're not playing their best basketball, and they have a tough week ahead playing OKC on Thursday, which could either serve as a get-right game and a statement game, or it can serve as a, oh my goodness, like Houston might have a problem here as they've fallen officially into that play-in tournament for now.
I don't know when they became my Rockets, but I don't think they're completely cooked. Like, they've been without Alperen Sengun. He is their top playmaker. This is a team that was already missing its top playmaker in Fred VanVleet. They still have tremendous talent, like superstar Kevin Durant, who's on a healthy streak. Sengun, once he gets back, he's phenomenal. Amen Thompson, Reed Shepherd, we touched on getting better. They've got a pretty deep roster. I think all of those things are great, and I think all of those things will lead them to at least being like a middle of the pack Western Conference team, which is not what you want coming into the year. Like, they were looked at as, the number 2, 3 team in the West. Those are all good things. The bad things are the rest of it, which is what head coach Ime Udoka has talked about, which is, they're really, really relying on a 37-year-old superstar to continue carrying them. He's playing 40 minutes a night, and they're still losing basketball games. That's awful. Their defensive intensity hasn't been there. Newsflash, folks, Dylan Brooks is a good freaking basketball player. He doesn't lose basketball games too often in his NBA career. They're missing him. They're missing his shot making. The intensity just hasn't been there as much with this Rockets team. They kind of like the Thunder and Jaylin Williams said this at practice the other day. I don't know that they were necessarily taking the right approach over the last week. So I don't think they're cooked. They're not in a good spot, though, either. You can't talk too positively about this Rockets team because they're flat out not going out there and winning games. You lose to the Kings? This iteration of the Kings, that's pretty embarrassing to me. So I'm somewhere in between cooked and we're back.
Yeah, I think that the Rockets, like, this is their sky is falling moment. OKC had their sky is falling moment. It's all bad right now. Nobody wants to hear anything positive right now about the Rockets or the Thunder. But at the end of the day, whenever you get to the end of the season, I think that they're going to be a great defense, an elite defense. They have Kevin Durant, they have Sengun healthy, and as long as those two guys are healthy, their offense can be passable if they get some shooting luck. And that's the same thing with the Thunder. It's like, when the season's over, they better be back to an elite defense, just like the Houston Rockets better be back to an elite defense. They have, Shai, who's capable of hitting some big shots. And then it comes down to the luck because they don't have good enough shooters to bank on anything. You're banking on luck and shot making from three. Can you get just enough from three to get it done? Houston has their big problem also of like not having a ton of guard depth of guys who can facilitate and play make, especially with the Reed Shepherd concerns that we talked about earlier. So like Houston is in a worse spot than OKC, but pretty similar in the sense of their strengths and weaknesses. Moving forward for Houston. But ultimately, I think that they're going to avoid the play-in. I think that they're going to be a top 6 seed in the West. And then they're going to be one of those teams that, like, they're led by a 37-year-old veteran. If he has the postseason of his life, they can navigate through being a lower seed. If he at all stumbles in the playoffs and they also don't have good shooting luck, then they'll be bounced out pretty quickly. So it's kind of in that tone for me. It's a little bit like the Warriors last year, where I think that like post All-Star break, the Rockets will really turn it on. The first round will be a nail-biting 7-game series, no matter who they play. They might win that series, they might lose that series, and then you see what happens in round 2. But the Rockets, I think, are just kind of who we thought they were, and that's why you took the Kevin Durant deal. So if you want to crown them, then crown them. But they are who we thought they were. I mean, and we let them off the hook. But the Utah Jazz, Derek, they're officially in tank mode after taking OKC to overtime. They lose to Charlotte 150-95. Your Charlotte Hornets. We've been talking all year that they need to pick a direction. They've picked that direction. They can we'll play against OKC, but then we're gonna lose by $1 billion to the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, it's not news to Thunder fans' ears necessarily owning that top 8 protected Jazz pick, but if I'm like a Jazz front office member, it's absolutely the direction I take. Like, I don't look at this roster, and they've drafted some of my guys, and they've got a star that I like in Lauri Markkanen, but I don't look at this Utah roster and say, oh, this is really what we want to move forward with in terms of like the high-end talent. So this 2026 draft is so good. You can't blame them. Like, they want to go get AJ DiBonsa. Great. That's probably the exact move. I I would reposition myself. And again, not what OKC fans want to hear. They need extra luck now to go ahead and land that pick, but it's what I would do. Do you feel differently, Rylan?
Oh yeah, you got to tank. You have to tank, and you have to do it the most egregious ways possible. I mean, Ryan Smith.
Yeah.
Ryan Smith is a billionaire. He's a great owner. He loves his franchise. Eat whatever fines the NBA tries to throw at you. Just relentlessly tank and get the best lottery odds that you can possibly have from this point moving forward. Who cares about the fines? Who cares about being the face of tanking? If it nets you AJ or Darren Peterson or Cam Boozer, yeah, you're going to live with the being the face of tanking, because soon you'll be the face of competitiveness. So who cares if you're the face of tanking for now, to me in Utah? And obviously the Thunder are owed that top 8 protected pick by Utah. I don't think they're going to touch that pick. And listen, Derek, the fact that we're even conversating about this pick is a big deal, because like when they made the trade, it was like a fake first round pick to dump Derek Favors, and the Jazz almost fumbled away that pick. And how embarrassing would that be for Utah if you had a Derek Favors salary dump pick end up being the 10th pick and you got to give it to OKC in a loaded draft class? Like, that would not be good for them. They've got to tank, as we've been clamoring for all season.
Yeah, I mean, and in the context of the team we just talked about too, like doing it with this team, I love Keontae George. Doing it with Keontae George is like your second leading scorer. That does not help the context either. Like, you don't want to move forward in Utah with this exact iteration. We like some of the pieces. They need a guy, and Lauri Markkanen's awesome. I don't think they've necessarily played that situation perfectly. They need a legitimate tier 1 draft prospect, and to their credit, they haven't had top draft picks. They haven't had great lottery luck. You know, they took Ace Bailey 5th. That's about as high as they've been. The Keontae Georges and the Cody Williams and a few of these other guys, they were all in the middle of the first round. So I think they've done fine considering their assets, but at this point, you just got to go get the top asset possible. And I don't even know that they've played the beginning of this season correctly, because they probably shouldn't even be in the position that they need to pull this lever right now. This probably should have been a preseason thing, but I wouldn't blame them in the slightest to pull that lever, which they obviously have.
Yeah, they obviously have. The Mavericks, it just keeps getting worse. It keeps getting worse for Dallas. Anthony Davis's season is likely cooked with his recent injury. Surprise, surprise. There will not be a trade for AD at the deadline because of this injury. Dallas obviously should not bring him nor Kyrie back this season, which opens up a whole new can of worms, because who's going to want AD in the offseason? Probably nobody. And they're just kind of stuck in this limbo period, but they cannot bring back Kyrie. They cannot bring back AD. There is no quote unquote saving face the rest of this season. It's over. It's over, Patrick Dumont. Just lose, lose, lose. And then it brings up the question of like, well, this is the last year that you control your pick. You've got to lose, and lose in a hurry. Already the 7th best lottery odds, sitting at 14-25. Utah's at 6 with 13 wins. Brooklyn's at 5. Your Nets with 11 wins. My Wizards are at 4 with 10 wins. Like, how far can the Mavericks plummet here as they try to use the draft lottery to net them a co-star with Cooper Flagg?
It's really tough, and they're in a tough position, obviously not necessarily due to the current front office, but Kyrie's going to probably want to play basketball. Like, this is a guy that is most likely in the twilight of his career, even if he's really, really good. Like, he doesn't have 10 years left, you know? So I would want to play if I came back and got healthy. And in that same vein, like, they're going to be better than the Utah Jazzes and the Brooklyn Nets of the world if they have Kyrie on the court. As you touched on, that this is the only pick that they're really going to glean value from over the next handful of years. So they're in a tricky, tricky spot. There's some talent that they could certainly get in the spot they're in now, where, you know, they fall to 8, 9, they grab one of these point guards. It's a really deep guard class, but man, there's so many different ways the Mavericks could navigate this. And if I'm sitting there as a Dallas Mavericks fan, I don't know how good I feel about them actually doing it and navigating it.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I don't trust them at all to make the right decisions. I can tell you that for free. The Mavericks were cooked. I mean, it is what it is. They're cooked. I mean, Cooper Flagg's good, but you know, he's great. Cooper Flagg honestly is up to every expectation you could possibly have of him. But the rest of it is just like, you got to trade Daniel Gafford now. You got to trade PJ Washington. What can you really get? They're in a bad way. They're in a bad way. Now let's go to the topics that you put on here. Ja Morant trade. It sounds like, Derek, from Chris Mannix of SI, that the Ja Morant trade will look similar in how it goes off to the Trae Young trade, where it's just matching salaries and that's kind of it. They just want to end the Ja Morant experience. But Derek, I'm struggling to find a fit that I love for Ja Morant. And now this is twofold, right? Because this is where it comes down to the back channeling and like the fact that these NBA teams can talk to Ja. Memphis, considering that they want to trade him, will give his agency permission to talk to other teams. The only way that I'd trade for Ja Morant is if you got 100% guarantee that Ja Morant is going to stop this gimmick of like not driving to the rim and not dunking. Listen, Ja, like this is what I would tell Ja if I was another team. And if I was his agent, I'd also tell him this. It's like, dude, you can either try to quote unquote protect yourself and like not dunk and not drive to the rim hard and try to be a jump shooter and try to prolong your career and be out of the league soon because you're not a good shooter at any level. You're a terrible shooter. And if you're not going to shoot because you can't, and you're not going to drive hard and you're not going to make these highlight dunks, and you're not going to lead this team to the rim, then you're a nothing offensively. And your defense has never been a calling card of yours. So you quite literally do nothing on the court. You could either do that or you can get back to what you used to do, which is just relentlessly attack the rim, put pressure on the rim, and sacrifice, your body. You might go up for a dunk and land awkwardly like you did against Lou Dort. You might break your wrist on the rim. You might have some injuries that way and have a very short career compared to a long career. But that short career would be spent dominating, whereas your hypothetical long career, one, wouldn't get to a long career because nobody would want you, and two, would be full of just awful basketball.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense that this deal is shaping up to be similar to the Trae Young deal. Not that Trae Young isn't a talent and not that Ja Morant isn't a talent in some degree, but if I were Memphis, I would want to move off the Ja Morant era as well. So yeah, it's hard to come up with a destination, Teams aren't going to want to spend assets on all of the things you mentioned, which I agree with. So I put some teams down: Kings, Nets, Raptors, Wolves, Heat. Some of these are, okay, the Wolves need a point guard. I don't know that it's a great fit necessarily, but they need a guard. If the deal is there, I kind of get it. The Heat, they're in every star talk till the end of time because it's Miami. Nets, who knows what they're doing. Raptors also need a guard. And then Kings, who knows what they're doing. So these are the teams that jump out to me. Again, really, really hard to place Ja Morant because I don't think either of us feel necessarily great about going and trading for him, mostly due to the salary. If you could go get Ja Morant for scrap and like give the expiring contracts and seconds, and it doesn't affect your future in any way, sure. But Ja Morant makes like $40 million, and that is much, much harder to navigate than simply adding him to your team.
Yeah, I mean, it is partly the salary. It is partly what I talked about earlier of just like, I don't think he's a good player right now with his current mindset. He's got to get back to his old mindset. And if he promises to get back to Boy Scout honor, promises to get back to his old ways, then if I was like even Houston, I'd be like, you know what? You have all these expiring contracts for a reason. Combine them all, throw them to Memphis, get Ja Morant, let them sort out those expiring deals, and let's see if Ja Morant can inject some life into this Houston team. But then you worry about the fit there with like him and Naaman Thompson both kind of having the same archetype in the sense of like offensive archetype. And then, the spacing in Houston would not be good. It's just a bad fit for him on every team. And he has put himself in the corner by his limitations of like, similarly to Trae Young, of like, he's got to lead a team. He's not good enough to lead a team. You've got to build this whole roster around him. He's not good enough for that to happen. And that can't happen just on the fly, on a whim for Ja Morant, who we haven't even brought up the off the court stuff with Ja Morant. But the last one, though, I am very much interested in the Michael Porter Jr. trade talk, Derek. I think that the Nets should let him fly this trade deadline if they can get any sort of deal for him that makes them any amount of assets in return, whether it is a first-round pick, whether it is a young player like a Jonathan Kuminga, whether it is a whatever it is, just get him going somewhere else. And I think that he has played his way into being a viable, like being a massive needle mover in the sense of the trade deadline.
Yeah, I agree with the second part, which is why I don't agree with the first part. I think you hold on to him and you make these teams come to you. You now have an all-star forward. Make teams give you real pieces for this. Don't offload him for one first round pick. This is a guy averaging 26 points. He might be an all-star this year. He's legitimately leading Brooklyn, who is not a great roster. You have no problem admitting that. This is not a great team. He's helped them to really win some games this year. So I would hang on to him and say, you know what? You're not getting him for my first round pick. You could get him for 2 firsts, or you could get him for a first and a really good young player, but I'm not just letting him fly to let him fly. I'm holding on to MPJ at this point as a legitimate piece. Like, you have the bargaining power at this point as the Nets over these teams that want MPJ, such as the Warriors. The Warriors are not in a great situation right now. Why should they get to dictate the terms of this deal with you who have the player? And you could also just sit back and let him develop next to Gilgeous-Alexander and Nolan Traore and these other kind of guards. And
that'd really help us development. Yeah.
Anyway, I think you have the bargaining power if you're Brooklyn at this point. So you get to make the terms, and I wouldn't just let him fly.
I see where you're coming from. I think that like the leverage could get neutered a little bit by like, hey, listen, Nets. We know he's not this kind of player. Like, we've seen him on a winning team. These are largely empty calorie roles and stats for him. That like he's not going to be put in this position on a good team to really thrive this way. I will say the Nets could counter double spin zone with
dude. We are spinning today.
We're spinning it up. Double spin zone. The Nets could counter with like, yeah, but if you look at his game today, he is maximizing everything from the rebounding to his defensive effort to his 3-point shooting. He is maximizing everything that made him such a valuable role player for Denver, and he's doing it to a better degree right now, even just the role player aspects of his game in Brooklyn. Does he get to explore a little bit more in Brooklyn? Sure. And would you want him to do that kind of stuff in a winning environment? No. But even just the role aspects of Michael Porter Jr.'s game have gotten better in Brooklyn. He is playing better as a role player. So like that could be some of the leverage back to Brooklyn. It'll be very fascinating though. And I think that I still think that Golden State, while I agree they should not dictate the terms of the trade, I still think that Golden State would be the first call if I was Brooklyn, just because you could talk them into like a panic move. Like, hey, no matter how far out you need to push these first round picks, I don't care. I think that this window is closing. I'd actually prefer you to push these first round picks out if I'm Brooklyn. Push these first round picks out as far as you want. I need 2 of them in Kuminga. I'll bank on Kuminga, whatever he is. Let's take a flyer on him, and I'll get 2 first round picks from a team who's clearly at the end of their wits here, like Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, etc., all phasing out. By the time you get to those picks in 5 years from now, then they'll be a terrible team in all likelihood. This front office has not proven you that they can do anything with young players and do any evaluation of finding players on the margins. So if I was Brooklyn, I would still want to see if Golden State would panic in that way and just give up whatever first that they do have in the future. But yeah, I don't think that Golden State should be able to just give them nothing.
Yeah, I lean a little bit in the middle in terms of his impact too. Like, is he the 4th best player on a championship team? Yes, but I also think he's shown a little bit more in Brooklyn too that has made him worthy to be able to branch out a little bit. Like, he's probably more than what he was in Brooklyn. Yes, Nikola Jokic is an obviously prolific, unlockable passer, but MPJ's just been really, really good this year, genuinely as the best player on a team. So I wouldn't just offload him to get worse. It has to be the right deal for Brooklyn, and I think it's good that they're in this position.
Yeah. Let's close the show as we always do with our technical fouls. Derek, I love your technical foul, and I don't even know what it is. I just see what it is on the surface level, and I just want to save that for the end because I hate the place that you have on here. My technical foul goes to NBA social media teams.
That's a technical foul.
Look, they work hard. They do. I appreciate the work that NBA social media teams have to do, but we don't need to see 15 tweets a day about voting for insert team's 10th man into the All-Star game. Grow up. It's ludicrous to put out a post. They're like, vote for our two-way big man to get into the All-Star game. Folks, they're not getting into the All-Star game. They have no shot. And if NBA players are so soft that would hurt their feelings if the social team only advocated for their top 2 players to be in the All-Star game, then you have bigger fish to fry within your organization. Like, we don't need 15 tweets a day going through every member of the roster saying, vote This guy who averages 3 points a night into the All-Star game. Spoiler alert, folks, he's not going to get in, and he wouldn't make the G League All-Star game. So that's a technical foul.
That's a technical foul.
My technical foul of the week goes to the city of St. Louis.
That's a technical foul.
Man, that just really makes me happy. I hate Missouri. I hate St. Louis.
They've got a real conundrum up there. This is a direct headline. Monkeys are on the loose in St. Louis, and AI is complicating efforts to capture them.
That's a technical foul.
Multiple monkeys are on the loose in St. Louis, and AI-generated images are complicating the effort to find them. The monkeys were first spotted Thursday near a park in the northern part of the city, prompting rumor after rumor. It's unclear who owns the monkeys, how they got loose, or exactly how many there are. What's going on in St. Louis?
That's a technical foul.
Monkeys loose?
AI?
AI?
What's going on in St. Louis is the tagline of their city. Nobody knows. They don't have any control. Missouri sucks. Just Missouri. Technical foul to Missouri again.
That's a technical foul.
Derek, this was another fun show. I'm going to try it once again, Derek, as I try every week. Any closing thoughts on the week?
I've got a lot of closing thoughts, Rylan.
What?
A ton. And I could sit here and I could give them to you, but I'm not going to. I hope you have a great week, Rizzy Rye.
You're the worst. See you guys next time.